U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
From humanitarian organizations, Israel says it's allowed the largest number of aid trucks into Gaza since the war began 6 months ago. Israeli authorities say 322 trucks entered the strip, most of them carrying food.
Hey, I got a question
trucks
for
used to
you.
arrive daily.
Is this appropriate?
What is it?
It's Kanye West with Netanyahu.
Yes.
You think that's appropriate? There's
Yes.
a Yahoo there. I don't. But, you know, there's the joke.
Nations accuse Israel of slowing the delivery of humanitarian relief supplies. UN has described the situation in Gaza as man-made starvation and warned of famine. Tess Ingram is a communication specialist at UNICEF, and she joins us live now from outside the Kuwait hospital in Rafah. Tess, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. So we've seen this convoy of aid trucks entering Gaza. First of all, can you help us understand where that aid is going and the impact that it's having?
Oh, it's so important. When I came into Gaza last week, I know that there were 1,200 UN and NGO trucks backed up waiting to enter. So the fact that we've seen more trucks come in is really good news, but we need this to happen consistently because, of course, Gaza is on the precipice of a famine. This food has to get in and across the Gaza Strip with urgency. Most of the children dying of malnutrition are in the north, and our access to that area with food aid has been so limited. So it's really important that this aid comes in at scale and is continued for the days to come.
Give us an idea of the logistics once the aid is inside Gaza, how it is distributed from the south to the north, and the obstacles that it faces.
It's a really challenging process. It's one of the most challenging places in the world to be a
great package there. Great timing.
Because of the safety concerns,
you could have had her start talking before the honking and sirens started, but no.
That we're told is safe. We are still put at risk, and that's part of the challenge in getting the aid
Why
to the
does
north.
this
We're just
need
not
to be
getting
live?
the safety
Edit
assurances
this.
we need. And then, of course, there's other challenges, damages to roads, restrictions on where we can travel, a serious lack of trucks now and fuel that we can use to transport the aid. So the obstacles are many, but we're still doing our best in these really difficult circumstances to bring food and water and medicine and nutrition treatments to the vulnerable children that need it.
How has UNICEF perhaps changed
Why would
its
you put
operations
that
since
sound
that
on the
Israeli
clip
strike on
that's
World
not
Central
even
Kitchen?
like where the person is being interviewed?
We, along with other UN agencies, took a 48-hour pause on night operations, but we're back to full operations now. We've been here in Gaza for decades, and we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay here during the fighting, stay here as the guns fall silent, and then help the children of Gaza
so
to
many
rebuild once there finally is
Australian
peace. But of
volunteers
course,
there.
We can't do that if it's
And
not
on the
safe. So we
news.
need these safety assurances from Israel that when we go on a coordinated mission, we know we're not going to be killed.
Tessia, you're there at the Kuwait hospital in Rafah. Can you tell us what's the situation there? Because we know that all medical facilities are running low on supplies. And added to that, of course, is the impact of al-Shifa hospital being taken offline. So what is the situation in the remaining hospitals?
I visited 4 hospitals in the last 5 days, and I can tell you that every medical director has told me about the impact of the lack of resources and the lack of staff and how that's really detrimental for the patients in these hospitals. They're running at 4 times capacity. Children are dying from infections. Children are dying from malnutrition. There's just not enough staff and resources to go around. So the needs are great. That's why we have to rush this aid in, and it's why we need a ceasefire.
Well, instead, we've got Israel keeping on raising the spectre of a ground offensive on Rafah, where you are. That's where 600,000 children are living, mostly in makeshift shelters. Can you envisage a situation where they are all evacuated to safety?
No, I can't. There is no safe place in Gaza to evacuate these children to. And when you walk around the streets of Rafah here, it is so clear that this is a city of children. Every second person is a child. And I've met so many who have already been injured here in Rafah. 9-year-old who was shot, a 10-year-old, sorry, who was shot in the head in Mawasi.
Is that the natural sound on the other clip in the video? You're muted.
That's what I was saying. I was just saying, who put this fucking natural sound in prayer?
Insane.
Right? So the nat sound earlier, they did it again with the honking and sirens. Like, are you fucking kidding me with this shit? You can't hear the person being interviewed because we need nat sound on the fucking big clip. people's entertainment, like, I mean, I pull up fucking like pictures during, like, when we were doing history in Haiti, I was pulling up pictures for reference for all those history moments, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do that to keep people's attention, but I'm not also blaring music and fucking calling to prayers in the background. Like, how much jingle keys do we fucking need for people here? You're not supposed to make news for the viewer. You're supposed to make it for the listener anyway. Like, what are we doing?
If you want the sound, just turn it down. Turn her up.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Any
what
of
I'm saying.
these.
No, why is this live?
A 16-year-old whose house fell down around her and she broke her leg, and a 10-year-old who has major wounds from explosions. And this is all happening already in this area. So the children are vulnerable and they need this fighting to end. If it came into Rafah, that would just be catastrophic.
Tessa, can I just ask you one more question, even as you are battling to be heard above the...
No, what if actually...
Did you notice that?
Hang on.
They turned it down for the host.
What if... Hang on. What if this is more advanced than we're giving it credit for, and they are actually cutting in shots knowing that what they're hearing in the background there will go with those shots, and there's actually a call to prayer right now playing behind her, and they're using a prayer from the other day as B-roll while it's happening?
But they turned it down for her, for the host.
Yeah, because the host isn't on the same audio feed, right? So the audio in the background is the call to prayer on the interviewee, and they're using silent footage to associate with what's going on in that current time. They're like using archive footage to give footage to the natural sound that's happening in the interview.
Too much credit.
What if, though?
Too much credit.
What, I mean, she's saying you're struggling to be heard above the prayer. Why would she say that if it's just like them fucking up? To cover their fucking up?
Maybe.
This is just weird.
Yeah, I don't think so, because she would also be down if she's talking, right? So if she talks and it doesn't go back up, then that is the natural sound from that clip.
A call to prayer behind you there. The international aid, in northern Gaza, 1 in 3 children under 2 years. I mean, we know that they are acutely malnourished. We've been hearing for some time that that whole region is on the edge of famine. If aid is reaching there now, is it arriving in time to prevent a widespread famine in that region?
Look, a famine could happen at any moment now in the north of the Gaza Strip. We've been warning about this for months, and still too little aid is getting to that
they
area.
really did put an old archive footage there. They were fast enough to pull that up and put that into a live broadcast.
I don't think it's necessarily live or archive footage. I think it's just recent footage to show the
they might have recorded the interview, because they do that, because to stretch out the 24-hour news cycle, they'll be like, here's an interview that happened earlier, and they'll put it in with more stuff. That's probably what happened. But if that's the case, that's actually I was just saying, what is going on? That would actually be very interesting editing.
Yeah. I don't think it's to cover it. I think it was just footage to back up what she's talking about. I think that's
because earlier it was sirens and trucks, right? They got honks, and it looked like they would be honking. There was no actual sirens it was showing. No, it was just trucks. Yeah, go to when the trucks first appear.
Aid, right?
Go when the trucks first appear. Yeah, keep going back.
Once
they like open a gate.
Gaza.
Precipice of a famine. This food has to get in and across, and our access to that area with food aid has been so limited. So it's really important that this aid comes in at scale. And
they're just matching what she's talking about.
Keep playing. Just watch. Listen to the horns.
Just an idea of the logistics once the aid is inside Gaza, how it is distributed from the south to the north, and the obstacles that it faces.
It's a really challenging process. It's one of the most
challenging
places in the world to be a humanitarian aid worker at the moment, largely because of the safety concerns.
So because they were talking about aid anyway, so it might be more of a coincidence, but I think it looks like those trucks doing the honking. It makes you even hear truck sounds while the trucks were going by. I don't know. Seems like this is actually pretty well put together now that I actually take a step back and realize, that it was probably filmed earlier. Live, and they took that
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
interview.
Mm.
Okay, anyway, let's move on.
We're going to try and attempt to go there tomorrow with some nutrition.
And we turn now to John Kirby. He is the coordinator for strategic communications for the White House
No!
Security Council. Welcome
I
back.
hate him.
Thanks, Margaret. So Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel's one step away from victory, but they still plan to go into Rafah. Has Netanyahu agreed to President Biden's request to make this targeted and not a ground assault?
We have been very clear with the Prime Minister and his team that we don't support a ground operation in Rafah, that there are other ways, other options that they need to look at for how they're going to go after the Hamas threat that still is in Rafah. We had a virtual meeting last week. We expect to have an in-person meeting with Israeli
no ground
counterparts in the
assault.
next
Bomb
week or
them
so. We're
instead.
still narrowing down the schedule, where we hope to be able to present in more detail our thinking, some of our alternatives, the kinds of things that we want them to learn from our own experiences about how to do operations of this regard.
So as you heard, the IDF says this is an evolution of the war to draw down some of these troops. Exactly what are they preparing for? Is this for another front in this conflict?
Well, I certainly wouldn't speak to IDF operations or their planning one way or another. It's
They
a
haven't
sovereign
told you
military. The indications that we've been getting from them this morning is this is really largely rest and refit for troops that have been on the ground consecutively now for 4 months, and they need a chance to come out. Now, what they'll do with those troops after a rest and refit, I can't speak to. All I can do is say what I said before. We don't support a major ground operation in Rafah. That has not changed, and we're looking forward to having conversations with the Israelis about alternatives to those kinds of operations.
You know, there has been a large amount of criticism and skepticism as to how Israel is waging this war in the wake of the deaths of those 7 humanitarians this past week.
Yes.
You said on Tuesday the U.S. has not found any incidents where the Israelis have violated international law. How far-reaching is the U.S. investigation of Israel?
I wouldn't call it a U.S. investigation of Israel. We have a normal process the State Department runs and governs, where they take a look at incidents, particularly those that are operations being conducted by partner countries, and they look at them and they assess them against international law. And they're doing that in real time, Margaret. So some of them they've looked at and concluded, some they're still looking at.
So they may be in violation of international law.
Thus far, as I said the other day, we've not seen any indication that they have violated international humanitarian law, but we take this seriously. They take it seriously at the State Department. We'll keep looking at this.
Well, the Secretary...
Fuck the State Department.
No, him specifically, he's the worst.
No progress has been made at the
honking.
latest round of Gaza truce talks in Egypt, a Hamas official told Reuters on Monday, shortly after Egyptian sources said headway had been made on the agenda. The official, who asked not to be named, said, quote, "There is no change in the position of the occupation, and therefore there is nothing new in the Cairo talks." Israel and Hamas sent teams to Egypt on Sunday for another try at reaching a ceasefire in a deadly conflict that's now been going on for 6 months. US CIA Director William Burns arrived on Saturday, with Qatar and Egypt also in attendance. Early on Monday, the Egyptian Al Qeada News had reported that all parties involved had agreed on basic points. The state-affiliated TV channel said the Hamas and Qatar delegations will return within 2 days to agree on the terms of a final agreement. This comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stressed again on Sunday his country would not agree to a ceasefire without the release of hostages, while Hamas repeated its demands, which include a permanent ceasefire, the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, and a return of displaced people. Netanyahu said that despite growing international pressure, Israel would not give in to extreme demands from Gaza's Islamist
Did you see that?
Western countries have voiced not give in to extreme demands from Gaza. Netanyahu said that despite growing international pressure, Israel...
Where?
That green one is Saudi flag, isn't it?
It's probably Hamas. Saudi Arabia's flag has a sword. I meant horse.
Yes, yes,
sword.
it does. Yes, it does.
Hamas.
It is green though, right?
I'm right
there.
Green is
It's
like an
green,
Islam
right?
color, so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Give in to extreme demands from Gaza's Islamist rulers. Western countries have voiced outrage over what they see as an unacceptably high Palestinian civilian death toll and humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
It depends on who's doing it. It can be
True.
cringe sometimes. This is probably what it was. This right here.
Yeah. What's a Saudi flag?
It's basically the same thing. They all say the same thing. It says that it says the flags all say there is no God but Allah.
Okay.
And then the ISIS flag is the second half of that, but it's still the same type of flag, and it's the second half, which is there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah.
Okay.
So ISIS just says Muhammad is the messenger of Allah.
Yeah.
In their flag. But that's the thing is that these institutions they're technically all anti-state. even though they want to form Islamic states. But technically, they're all anti-state because they don't recognize the state. They only recognize the religion. Anyway, Saudi Arabia KSA flag. Okay. That's it. Just a nice, modest sword, not a gigantic sword or anything. This one's a little big. Calm down there, pal. I remember the Pope went to Saudi Arabia and the fucking racists were posting because they put their swords out, right? To make a sword tunnel, like a ceremonial thing that they'll do. You've seen it, right? With the crossed swords above the person who's coming in head, right? And bro, if that was fucking Parliament with knights and stuff, they wouldn't say anything.
Yeah. It's normal if they're in armor.
Well, no, it's because they're white culture then.
Well, yeah.
Then it's normal. If it's Arabians holding swords, it's barbarians.
Has killed 1,000.
Their sword's not straight, it has a curve.
Basically,
people
yes.
in its rampage into southern Israel on October 7th, according to Israeli tallies. More than 33,100 Palestinians have been killed in the Israeli response, according to the health ministry in Gaza. Netanyahu faces domestic pressure too.
You know why the swords are curved?
In Tel Aviv and now Jerusalem.
No idea.
Calvary.
Okay.
Camels.
Cool. Camels.
Yeah.
As well. Protesters are pushing the government.
We begin in The Hague, where Germany has been accused of aiding and abetting genocide in Gaza.
Germany accused of genocide again?
It was brought by
Oh my
Nicaragua
lord!
And calls for emergency measures to stop Germany from selling weapons to Israel. It also wants Berlin to restore funding to the UN's Agency for Palestinian Refugees. More than
it might be
actual Nazi here.
Terrible government doing this to Germany and basically trolling them just to associate Germany with genocide again. Which is I support it all the way. I support this type of trolling by Daniel Ortega. So
yeah.
I mean, I really don't know which of these Nazis to support. They're both pretty good options.
Justifying someone Aaron Mate likes now, First I'm justifying Abby and Hamas.
He's turning.
Being killed in Gaza in 6 months of bombardment, nearly half of them children.
If the actions of Israel continue unrestrained as they have since its birth as a state,
need to touch some grass.
To receive the indiscriminate support of states like Germany,
you with the brain
then
rot.
a new generation of Palestinians will rise up again in the near future.
I just support trolling arms transfers to Israel. I don't care who does it. I don't care if it's fucking Jackson Hinkle himself.
The case before the court is an opportunity to break this vicious cycle. Without support of states like Germany, Israel will not feel they can act with total impunity. Nicaragua is hopeful that states, particularly with the history of Germany, will heed the decisions of this court.
Our correspondent, Step Vasson, joins us now live from The Hague. Step, Nicaragua spent 2 hours this morning making its case to the court. You were there listening to all of it. What else did we hear from its representatives?
Well, it's been a very uncomfortable morning for Germany here at the highest court in The Hague, 80 years after the Holocaust. And although Germany hasn't been directly involved in the war in Gaza, Nicaragua says it has been facilitating genocide by sending weapons. And instead, it has an obligation to prevent genocide because it's a signatory to the Genocide Convention. But what Germany did instead, it has increased the sales of weapons to Israel tenfold compared to 2022, especially after October 7. And also Nicaragua.
Yeah, Germany is very
that Germany is citing for its commitment
to Israel. They're obviously compensating for something, but it has led them to this policy of being in this situation.
Israel, which is unconditional because of what happened in the past, because of what.
Well, if they don't, then they're going to be accused of being the country that did the Holocaust, and that's the last thing they'd want.
Nicaragua says it's about Israel, and that's
they want to pretend that was Hitler, not Germany.
He also said that, that Germany is making.
You don't get to have good bagels, okay? Have you seen that video?
No. Something one member of the legal team, David Muller, actually said, Daniel Muller, sorry, during the trial.
This includes export licenses for weapons of war in the value of 20 million euros, such as 3,000 anti-tank weapons, which according to one manufacturer in Germany are a complete toolbox of shoulder-launched infantry weapons used against tanks, but also vehicles, structures and buildings.
Yeah, I was going to say, why are they buying anti-tank missiles?
You know why my ears hurt? Because I didn't put my fucking contacts in and I'm wearing glasses. That's not because I am these fucking oppressive headphones. All right, check this out. This video is so funny. First of all, look at how bad those bagels are in Germany.
Mm-hmm. What the fuck?
You know who made the bagels, right?
Germans?
Jews. It's a Jewish thing. So that's the context here. Why does Germany have bad bagels?
No Jews.
Bagel situation. One thing I hate about Germany is the bagel situation.
To make a long story short, that's why there's a bagel situation.
No, this isn't the right video. Fuck this guy. Your popularity, there's a better response where a guy says something very funny. It's not that guy.
Persons. 500,000 rounds of machine gun ammunition, 44 propellant charges, a key component in artillery ammunition, and 239 ignition charges. And the German news magazine Der Spiegel revealed information about plans of the German government to deliver tank ammunition from the stocks of the German armed forces.
Well, tomorrow Germany will have its chance to respond to the allegations. Tomorrow Germany will have its chance to respond to the allegations with its highest legal advisor to the foreign ministry. But it already came out this afternoon saying that all the allegations made by Nicaragua are grossly biased. It's going to be a very interesting test case for international justice because the two countries, Nicaragua and Germany, are not directly involved in the war in Gaza. So it's an unprecedented case. So legal experts around the world are really following this, and we will hear if a ruling will be made on provisional measures Nicaragua has asked for in the next coming weeks.
Okay, Steph, many thanks for bringing us up to speed on all the events that have been happening there.
So
at The Hague.
I got to give props to TikTok for a second here. Not only did they actually allow me to continue as a guest, which was awesome. They didn't used to be able to do that, right? It was a nightmare to get on the site. I was able to pause, rewind to the very beginning, and not have it immediately start playing.
Excellent.
One thing I hate about Germany is the bagel situation. So I usually...
You don't get to have good bagels. You don't, and you know why. You know why. If you wanted good bagels, maybe you shouldn't have done what you did. I'm just saying.
He's so Jewish, Jesus Christ.
Okay, bro.
That is
Not
very
a thing
funny,
to
though.
say about a Holocaust video. Put in my contacts so my ears stop hurting.
More just like the what's his name? What's the fucking actor guy that like the weird guy?
Allen from Lord of the Rings.
Woody Allen. Woody Allen. It's like the Woody Allen voice.
The pedophile.
Yeah, that guy.
That's your example.
Yeah, that's like that
the pedophile
sort of,
Jew. Okay.
Yeah, his voice kind of sounded like that, and that's sort of what I was picturing.
Like a Jew.
Oh, like Woody Allen.
This morning, well,
most Chinese people speak Chinese.
Wow, really?
Von Uzlegleiten is representing Germany before the ICJ, and she says that the government is upholding.
I want to know whether he was putting that voice on or not. I feel like he might have been.
Holding international law.
Germany rejects the allegations made by Nicaragua today. Germany does not and never did violate the Genocide Convention nor international humanitarian law, neither directly nor indirectly. On the contrary, Germany is committed to the uphold of international law, and this is what we work for internationally. We will tomorrow present our position in detail to this court. So much I can already tell you today. Nicaragua's presentation was grossly biased, and we will be telling you tomorrow how we fully live up to our responsibilities.
It's funny. It sounds very much like Israel saying that they don't want to kill civilians. Interesting. Sounds very, 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 very similar.
And in Berlin, Dominic Kane joins us now live. And Dominic, Germany's saying that it's been misrepresented by Nicaragua in court today. Is that the general feeling inside Germany?
The thing to point out here is that
Love
the
that breathing
government's
noises.
reaction that we've been hearing there has been being put out for several days now. Certainly on Friday, the Foreign Office spokespeople were saying effectively what we just heard there, this idea that they really have no truck with the case that's being brought forward, that puts them in the frame, as it were. There is no question that this issue is dividing opinion in this country. On the one side, you have people who say that they can't understand why the German government takes the position it does vis-a-vis Israel in a more general sense about the support that it offers to the state of Israel, about the protections that it puts in place for the state of Israel. And then on the other side of this debate, you have people who say, well, actually, no, it is important for Germany to recognize its cultural and historical responsibility in this situation and to be protective of the state of Israel and its right to exist. That certainly is something which government ministers and many different people in the government infrastructure, as it were, have adhered to going back many years, many decades even.
There is opposition, isn't there, in Germany? What are we actually seeing manifest itself in opposition to the government support of Israel?
I mean, this isn't out of the ordinary for Germany either. Like, they're very reactionary when it comes to, like, Israel and Nazi stuff. And understandably so, right? But it's like, this is normal, I feel, for Germany, their overcompensation for Israel. So it's just very funny that only now have they been pulled up on it like this. But I guess it's the first time that it's happened like an external thing, because most of them are internal policies.
Well, this is where it becomes more, as it were, a matter of conjecture, because there has been, certainly over the course of the last 12 hours, 24 hours or so, a statement put out by what is claimed to be several hundred German civil servants, none of whom is prepared to metaphorically put their heads over the parapet and go public with their name and their face, but have put out a statement which calls on the German government to disassociate itself from its policy thus far regarding Israel, to remember its commitments to justice, to the humanitarian cause around the world, that sort of thing. And in doing that, what they are doing, as it were, is continuing something that has had a head of steam, as it were, building up over the course of the last few months from other civil servants around the European Union and beyond, certainly in the United Kingdom as well, who in the course of the last few months have put out statements, again, under the cloak of anonymity, saying that governments in the West should be much more mindful of what they are doing and the effect of the policies, they are maintaining insofar as Israel is concerned, is actually having on the ground in Gaza. But it is worth making the point. There is this opposition, but it is coming from people who are using the shield of anonymity in order to put out their point of view.
Okay, Dominic Kane, bring us the view there from Berlin. Thanks very much, Dominic.
We're very concerned about a pending Iranian attack somewhere.
The U.S. will defend itself if Iran attacks in America.
I guess we're on to Iran now. Why is this in Israel?
It's still the same shit. Iran is mad because Israel killed their guy. You know, the guy in the building that was covered in pictures of Qasem Soleimani?
Yes.
So
Okay.
Iran is mad, and now they're saying we're going to attack people. After they immediately got bombed into obliteration by America, and we're like, okay, daddy.
Okay, we'll come back to this, because there's another one on the...
It's just gone 10:15
I see,
GMT.
okay.
I'm Laura Kyle, and we've been watching proceedings at the UN's top court in The Hague, the International Court of Justice. Though we've been hearing Nicaragua's case against Germany, that Germany's support for Israel violates the Genocide Convention. Nicaragua told the court it's extremely urgent that Germany halts arms to Israel. Let's bring in our correspondent, Sepp Bassam. She joins us now live from The Hague. Sepp, you were listening in. You were in the court for most of those proceedings. We heard twice from the Nicaraguan ambassador and from two other representatives in this case so far. Talk us through the proceedings today.
Why is this dude wearing a red coat?
Well, these past 2 hours must have been very uncomfortable for Germany. 80 years after the Holocaust, the country is now in the dock for facilitating genocide. The Nicaraguan legal team
That's why it's funny.
Drama, because
that's why it's funny that Nicaragua, of all states, were like, hey, we're the ones who are going to be standing up for humanity. Okay, Nicaragua, we believe you.
Two countries are here at the highest court who are not directly involved in the war in Gaza, but they both are signatories to the Genocide Convention. And that's why Nicaragua argues that Germany has its own obligation to fulfill this convention and not facilitate genocide. And it has also to do everything it can to stop a possible genocide. The ambassador of Nicaragua here in the Netherlands, Carlos Gomez, had very strong words because Germany has been saying from the beginning that Israel has a right to self-defense. He said clearly Germany doesn't see the difference between self-defense and genocide. That were very harsh words. And he also argued that there is raison d'etat that Germany is always referring to. That
like,
honestly, this is good.
Honestly, like, why are you giving them the easiest case to argue of all time?
Yeah.
Like, Nicaragua should not be a country who could just come in and start one-upping you by just going, like, basic morality.
Yeah. And they should do it to the US too.
So the US is too powerful. I think
they also
Germany
haven't signed the convention, right?
But I think Germany is the right target because of their specific fealty to Israel, weakening them as being one of the most loyal members of the Israeli caucus, so to speak, right? Weakening their status there is a good strategy, but also making an example out of them. And then also, just because the Nazis committed the Holocaust, it has so many factors making Germany the perfect one. Would I like it to happen to the US? Absolutely. But I'm also just being realistic. I think Germany is the best target. I hope Cuba does it next. That would be funny.
Said, don't confuse Israel.
I mean, Cuba really... What's wrong with Cuba at this point?
I don't know, the embargoes.
Yeah, exactly. So like, Cuba has way more legitimacy to like be calling out human rights than Nicaragua at this point.
Yeah.
Be like the guy from El Salvador going up there and talking about stop imprisoning people.
Yeah.
So says that there is not only this moral and feeling of guilt that Germany is expressing, but there's also a business aspect to it because the arms sales by German weapon companies have gone through the roof in the last year. And he said it's not only Germany business as usual because they know what is happening in Israel and in Gaza. They know, and they have now also been admitting in the last couple of months that they're very concerned about the possible breaches of international law, but they still sending weapons. Germany is the second largest exporter of weapons to Israel after the United States. So
there
this
you
is
go.
What the ambassador had to say.
That's another point. I didn't know it was that high. I didn't wow. Where's the fucking shit that you're supposed to send to Ukraine, Germany? How many times are you gonna fucking hold up Leopard tanks? They did finally send them, right? You know, they do it.
I'm not sure. Sure, financial struggles in Cuba.
Yeah. But like, what are we supposed to say? That like the government may not be like democratic, but like, can we really fucking? How much are we gonna fucking blame on them at this point?
Yeah, that's the question.
Like, come on.
What is the percentage?
There's countries we value as being democratic, and shit like that are just as bad as far as like freedom goes inside their country. Like, who gives a fuck? It's Trump's fault, really.
Yes, because he tightened the embargoes.
Yeah, I blame Trump way more than I blame the Communist Party of Cuba.
Right now, at least, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, come on. It's like, look, I'm sure some people, if they were personally wronged by Hitler and, you know, and they still don't like Germany, or people were wronged by Stalin way back then, and they still probably have problems with Russia. I understand that. Just for me, it's like, all right, Russia did those things during the Cold War. You know, they did the Afghan, you know, jihad, genocide, all that stuff. Whatever. That was the Soviet Union. I don't care. You know, like, there's only like, you know, you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Yes, I do at this point. Like, I just don't care that much about how much historical stuff goes into stuff, because I think there's been plenty of precedents to show that countries can just change. And like, look at Vietnam right now. And look at how, you know, from Deng Xiaoping to Xi Jinping, and look at the state of that country, and even Mao to Deng, right?
Yeah.
These were huge transformations.
The Khrushchev.
There's also the Indonesia with who was that dictator that your country backed to kill the Timor? Suharto, right? Like, and then they go, and then all of a sudden Duterte comes in, and it's like, wow, it's that type of shit again, right? So like, Oh yeah, that's the Philippines. Yeah. That's what I meant. But then I was talking over there in the Philippines because they used to have a fucking guy, and then Duterte came in, and then the guy who's the son of the guy comes in, and they're like, "Uh-oh, is this going to be even worse?" And he's like, "I'm kind of chill," and you're like, "What?" Look at Afghanistan for 20 years.
Yeah.
Iraq under Saddam. These were obviously liberation things. You know, there's been a lot of change there as well.
Yep.
South Africa going from like an apartheid state to like the Nelson Mandela state to like whatever it is now. Awful. Like it had so much potential. So
Yeah.
like I think there's precedent to change even if it's the Communist Party. Like I think the issue in Russia is Vladimir Putin. I don't think the alcoholic who was running it before him would have brought Russia down this path. I'm sure all of Europe would be more in unity now. They would all be in a trade alliance. Everything would be fucking great.
Didn't exist. Yeah.
100%. Who knows? Maybe denuclearization would happen broadly between the two most imperialist countries.
Maybe without the embargoes and Cuba able to do what they want to do and how they want to do it, could become a actual communist country without a head state. Maybe that could happen.
I always will joke to say that Vietnam I recognize as being legitimately communist, even though that communism isn't real. Like everyone has a capitalist economy, so
yes. And that's obviously where Cuba would go if it was opened up and the embargoes were lifted and they were able to openly trade with America. It would become capitalist very quickly.
The car industry is probably hurt so much by not having auto imports to Cuba.
Yeah.
Do you know how much money America is going to make off when Cuba just starts buying our cars, benefiting from NAFTA, benefiting the entire North American alliance?
Yeah, they would be brought in. They 100% would be. Yeah,
that's why it's and we can't push things like that because still Trump is still around. It's just so stupid. I hate him so much. He derailed so much shit,
and he's going to derail even more if he wins, unless the Democrats take everything else, and then he's impotent
I don't know.
for 4 years.
It's gonna literally this year, not just here. As I've said, this is the year when democracy is gonna die, right?
Yeah. Or it strives.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had a lot of wins, so
no.
Even Zelensky suspended the elections. He's an illegitimate leader.
Support of states like Germany, then a new generation of Palestinians will rise up again in the near future, and we will hear a future Secretary General commenting. This did not happen in the case before the court is an opportunity to break this vicious cycle. Without support of states like Germany, Israel will not feel they can act with total impunity. Nicaragua is hopeful that states, particularly with the history of Germany,
have I talked about on stream how Vietnam might be getting their own F-35s?
Yeah, multiple times.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I mentioned it here. I know I mentioned it to you in private and to my brother, but...
Also, Vietnam isn't going to wage any wars or fight any fights.
Yeah, you can watch our great video with Luna Oi on why that won't happen.
It's the only video I kind of liked from her.
Well, both the videos we watched weren't terrible.
We actually learned something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, watch that video. Is it just on Patreon? No, it's...
No. It's something like, did Luna Oi finally make a good video? And it's people just mad that we even gave her like grace because of the awful like agreements and things she said. Because she come on. But look, if Sargon of Akkad wants to challenge me and actually make a good video, I'm ready for it. I'll say he made a good video. I'm waiting for it.
So, Seth, we heard there from Nicaragua for around 2 hours today. Tell us what we're expecting tomorrow and indeed when we might expect a ruling.
Well, tomorrow it's Germany's chance to defend itself, and Nicaragua's legal team has already been anticipating on a few aspects, and one of them is the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice to rule on this case, because, of course, Germany is not directly bombing people in Gaza, and it also has no soldiers on the ground there, so there's no direct link to this possible genocide. But according to the legal team by Nicaragua, there is definitely this obligation that Germany has to abide by this genocide convention. So we expect to hear the German team tomorrow. It's led by the highest legal advisor to the foreign ministry and a team from the UK and Italy who will present their case here.
Italy?
We will expect a provisional measure or a decision on
Did
provisional
she say
measures
Italy?
coming from the court here in a couple of weeks.
Okay, Step Basson.
Who's
outside
Italy
The
going to
Hague, many
argue
thanks
for?
bringing-
Fascism?
In other news this morning, there are hopeful signs from the Middle East as the war in Gaza now hits 6 months of fighting.
No, seriously, like, let's just think about how optically funny that is. If Italy is the one who's going to speak also and argue on behalf of Germany, that's fucking hilarious.
That is funny. Who's next? Japan? Reform the Axis.
From southern Gaza on Sunday, more than 33,000 people in Gaza and more than
This time
1,700 in
with
Israel
views.
have been killed since Hamas launched its attack last October 7th. It's unclear how the withdrawal will affect the planned ground offensive into Rafah, where more than 1 million Palestinians have sought refuge from the fighting. Israel continues to face intense international criticism over casualties among civilian and aid workers.
White House correspondent Serena Marshall joins us now. Serena, diplomatic efforts continued into this weekend. How are they going?
Yeah, the Biden administration reportedly upping the pressure. He is very hopeful to get a hostage deal. However, it still is unclear exactly how successful those diplomatic talks this weekend in Cairo
Time for
were.
a Jimmy
Now, the House
Neutron
Official tells
meme.
us that they have no update at this point. However, according to state Egypt media, an Egyptian official told them there was significant progress. However, Israeli media is reporting that Hamas has told them there was no progress. So we're still waiting on the White House and the administration's official reply to how those talks went, sending CIA Director Bill Burns to the table this week. It included delegations also from Egypt and Qatar, and as well as Israel and Hamas teams arriving on Sunday. According to the AP on Friday, President Biden sent letters to the leaders of Qatar and Egypt calling on them to push Hamas for a deal, but those talks preempting a withdrawal of ground forces in the southern city of Gaza by Israeli forces. Now the officials
Right.
are calling that
I'm
simply
not
a
gonna make-
regrouping, and that's something that was even echoed
I'm not going to
by
go through here and put on fucking captions of my own and stuff, but
Mhm.
like, this meme, right? This is the 7th week in a row you've requested that you said that a ceasefire was close. Okay, just shut up. Every week, I'm so sick of it. Shut the fuck up.
Tell me when it actually happens.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
White House National Security Advisor and Communications Advisor John Kirby.
Next.
Now, in southern Lebanon, at least 3 people, including a Hezbollah fighter, have been killed in an Israeli airstrike. It targeted the town of Sultania. Lebanese armed group Hezbollah and the Israeli army have exchanged regular cross-border fire since the war on Gaza began in October. Ali Hashim has more from southern Lebanon.
Just after midnight, Israeli warplanes attacked this building in the town of Sultaniya, around 15 kilometers from the border. Now, emergency services said at least 4
See, because
people
the
were
mic, every
killed.
time he
Hezbollah
has to
issued
like
a
bend down
statement
with his
later
chin, he's
saying that
covering
one
his
of
mic.
his field commanders were killed in this attack. Now, this is just part of a wider context.
What?
His mic goes in and out every time he angles his chin down because it's right there at the top, right? It's literally right here. So big pet peeve of mine in everything. And I'll download like mods and stuff, and it'll be like to like put like actual realistic body armor on stuff.
Yes.
Realistic reloads, real guns, a real body armor. Every time it's down here. Like I fucking hate it, but it's like the best that I got. That is how to properly wear it. Your chin going down should touch the top of the plate. That is how you properly wear it. You have heart and lungs here. You don't wear it down here so your cleavage can show. I'm so done with it. That's how you properly do it. This guy is clearly taking his job seriously. He's got the strap fastened and everything. That's rare. Normally, they don't even have the strap fastened in the movies, right? It looks dorky to have the strap fastened in the movies. This guy cares about his life. This guy has a family to go home to.
Confrontation that's involving different elements. One of these elements is targeted killings. And Israel is using different kinds of weapons in targeting Hezbollah field commanders or fighters, warplanes, drones, or sometimes side bombs. Now, if we want to take this into maybe a wider
What is this? I don't
context,
know. What
it's
is
just
this
part of the
acceptable?
confrontation that's
Honestly,
already going on.
it depends. It depends on who you are. For the United States, 0. For Israel, infinity, I guess. For Russia, infinity. But the United States, for example, like the Operation Shock and Awe in Iraq. They hit almost every solid target. They had the precision to hit every solid target with almost no casualties, like going civilian on that whole night. But one of the places they did bomb was where people were taking shelter from the bombing, right? And that was a big fucking deal. It's not like Russia blowing up a fucking school that says, hey, there's civilians in here, and nobody gives a shit. People cared about that shit. So it really depends on the country at the end of the day. And America, I would rather have it be like that. I would rather have maximum pressure put on America. I just wish it would apply to other imperialist states like Russia as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no actual like record that you could point to that justifies everything or anything at all. It really comes down to what states back you, what money backs you, stuff like that. Like the rules are fake.
Raging, while it's still short from being identified as a war. It's a
for just killing Saddam.
confrontation
If they just
with,
killed Saddam, they could
with
kill
a
30
clear-
people. Yeah. So, and like that's the thing, is like it depends on how it's mandated right there, because and like even in the public, if we bombed Saddam and it killed 30 people, even the public wouldn't freak out that much about the 30 people being killed there. If we could, but like when you get up to like 100 people killed for just Saddam, maybe people will say like, hey, maybe we shouldn't done that, right? So like it really is like determined by so many things. But again, like America is crazily the most responsible imperialist country. They could spread themselves so much wider if they didn't fucking do that shit.
Mhm.
And they acted like Russia and Turkey.
Target.
They could
Israel
literally
wants
take
to hit
over the world.
military targets on the Lebanese side, or when that involves military infrastructure or personnel, and Hezbollah at the same time also retaliating by hitting Israeli military infrastructure on the other side. From Sultaniya, South Lebanon, Ali Hashim, Al Jazeera.
Israeli tanks on the move.
We saw that one.
A grim milestone this morning as the war in Gaza reaches the 6-month mark. The Israeli military says it's reduced its presence in southern Gaza as both sides prepare for a new round of negotiation talks. WCNC.
Shut up.
Today.
This is a
Just audio.
podcast. They
We're here
blow
today,
that
because
fucking
of
horn. They fucking okay. So there's like really Jewish guys in New York that walk around with that horn, and they find other Jews and they go, "Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?" And they blow the horn for them and stuff. I don't know why.
Fuck.
I don't know why. Just like how
That's so
have you seen
weird.
how they wear the little box on their head?
Box.
I'm box.
What?
Hang on.
I haven't seen a box. I know that their little circle hat.
Nope. No. Hang on. I'll just
It's
have
different?
to show you, bro.
What the fuck?
It's wild. It's only
I'm
like
so
a
excited.
specific shofar.
Like
Is that the
second
the
one?
horn is the shofar? What's the box called
Mm.
that they wear on their head or arm?
Are you asking chat? Because I don't know.
The horn is called the shofar. Yes, I know.
Hmm.
Yeah, because they knew what the shofar was. Okay, the box is called a tiefling or something. A tiefling.
It's a box.
No, but I'm dead serious. They put a box on their head.
Mm-hmm.
And I can explain it a little. This one I
Minion.
understand a little bit more than the horn. And again, this is only like a specific sect of Judaism, but it's very silly looking. So they put it's this box that they have on their head, right?
Okay.
So like in here, they also do this. They put a shawl on a certain way, and then they like wrap the band around the arm. Like,
Okay.
see, this is
Oh,
them like going
not
through
that
it. They
one.
have to do a
This one.
specific fold and stuff like this, and like
Ah.
so they like choose to wear it on their head and on their arm because the interpretation isn't exactly clear.
Okay.
So they like got this shit going on. but like it's like there's prayers inside it, and it says something in the Bible like you're supposed to like wear the prayers on you or something, for something
Okay.
like that, basically. So they
Sure.
do this whole thing where when they pray, they go through this entire ritual where they put the box on, they put like the shawl on specifically, they wrap their hand, and very interesting. But boy, does that look silly.
Everybody be aware that this is still happening, and we're still hoping that its solution will be like any minute. We don't have time. Nama has no time.
See, oh yeah. So is it just a specific thing, or is it like something that happens more? Like, how common is the morning prayer thing? I know the secrets. I know the secrets.
And you fucking you said he looked Jewish. He sounded Jewish.
yeah. But I see this shit, bro. I've been in New York, so it's like.
Do you think he's putting it on though? Seriously, was he putting that
don't
on?
know.
Like, surely it is. Can you tell us? Is that something that's put on? Is that like a real thing? Is that a real like?
What, the accent?
No, like the way Woody Allen sounds and that
No,
sort of.
that's just how the New York district sounds there.
Really? So it's like a regional
they do.
thing.
No, they do sound like that. Haven't you heard Sam Cedar talk? He's got it too.
No, that's not. No,
Come on.
No,
He's
I've
got
never
the New
picked
York
that up.
Jew accent, bro.
Never picked that up from him.
Well, when Michael Brooks makes fun of him, he does the most Jewish voice possible. Or
The Woody Allen Jewish accent sort of sound like the guy in the TikTok sounded. Like I swear it's like put on.
Brooklyn
but
accent.
is it Brooklyn specifically?
Well, there's
the
also
Brooklyn Jew
like
accent?
Uptown Protestant. So like in Annie Hall, that's like the both of the annoying New York accents, because like Annie Hall, she's like a WASP and he's like a Brooklynite Jew, right? So they're
Okay.
both just like really obnoxious. Great movie though. You just have to kind of, it's one of those movies that you have to separate the art from the artist,
Sure. So like that is an actual accent then.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I
There's
always
this-
thought Woody Allen put it on as like a haha funny Weasley Jew
Look at
thing. Like,
listen, Larry David, Seinfeld, they all have it.
yeah. Okay. Maybe Woody Allen.
It's like Italians have a specific dialect in New York City.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. See, this is why I want to go to New York, because it's such an interesting city.
There's
so
a
much
lot of language.
Yeah, there's so much like just people, so much interaction. It's just so interesting. I would just people watch all the time. Yeah, the stereotype is everyone's got their head down and headphones on. I just watch people. It's so fascinating.
See? It's a New York
Interesting.
thing. There's a New York accent.
Interesting. I'm so interested. It's so This is the kind of stuff that like I'm really sort of I really want to know about, like this sort of cultural stuff. It's just very intriguing to me.
There's like a channel that he's like one of those weird language guys,
Okay.
but he'll do like videos on 10 different accents from America you didn't know about. And he'll show the people using the accent and how funny they sound, and then go, ha ha ha, this is from blah 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 blah. Blah. There's tons of channels like that. Oh, a second. I wanted to tell you this scene in Annie Hall, right? So like they go to Thanksgiving, and a very young Christopher Walken plays Annie's like cousin or something. And they're like he's like sitting on a bed, and like Woody is like standing in the doorway, like, be like, you coming to dinner or something like that. And he goes, and Christopher Walken just is like, goes on. He's like, sometimes when I'm driving my car at night, I just, think about turning that wheel into the other lane, and just, I see the carnage and the fire and destruction, and it really calms me. And Woody Allen goes, all right, well, I'm due back on planet Earth. I'll see you later.
Right now, it's 184 days in captivity. It can be. The world should condemn it. The world should stand and to be with Israel against Hamas, and to do
What is happening
anything
in
that
our
they
chat?
can do to help us. And for our government, we demand them to do things as soon as possible
talking
and
about
not
the
to
hair?
waste time.
What?
You talking about the hair?
No, in our chat.
With Jew stuff.
They're discussing the world.
Here tonight to light a candle for all the hostages that are gone. My brother's a lone soldier, so all the soldiers that are currently serving and fighting in Gaza. It's absolutely terrifying. All the families, all the lives that we lost during this time.
Propaganda.
So just wanted to come and light a candle for them.
Don't snap out of it, boys. Snap out of it.
It's propaganda.
ceasefire and hostage
Propaganda. I'm in your house. I'm literally, babe, come back to bed.
have resumed in Egypt, hoping to make progress towards peace as the Israeli-Hamas war reaches its 6-month mark. Here's ABC's Britt Clinette from Israel.
You need a chin.
As the
You need to
Israel-Hamas
get
war reaches
you need
the
an
6-month mark,
operation to put a chin on you.
Israel Defense Forces leaving southern Gaza, but the IDF saying their fight is not over yet. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant saying troops withdrew from
You
Khan Yunis after
remember?
clearing the area of
You want
Hamas.
to hear
Forces-
about some real anti-Semitic shit that happened on this channel. Wait until you. I hope it was on video when you found out what their currency was called.
Oh, dude, no, it's on stream. I was losing my fucking shit. It was on stream. I legitimately thought that was like an anti-Semitic thing. That they just said like the Jews love shekels and shit, like an anti-Semitic thing. I thought it was a meme. No, actual currency. Lost my shit. Fucking hilarious. Couldn't believe it. I'm like, this can't be reality.
You know why? You know why? Because it's a silly thing to call your currency. So you think that it's just like a slur that the racists are
Yes.
saying, right? Because
That's literally what I
nobody
thought
would
it
call their
was.
currency that.
Is that not hilarious to find out? Would you not be laughing the same fucking way I was? Of course you would.
have left to prepare for future missions, including a potential invasion of
I'll be
Rafah.
back.
Israeli sources telling ABC News new negotiations have resumed in
Uh-oh.
Cairo in pursuit of a ceasefire
Yellow
and hostage
flags.
release
Uh-oh.
deal. The Israeli government is now facing growing outrage at home. Thousands taking to the streets in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, demanding a deal to bring home around 130 remaining hostages still held by Hamas, although the IDF believes at least 30 have been killed. Those calls echoed at a rally in Washington, D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial. Since the October 7th Hamas attack against Israel that began the war, the death toll
who
in
did
Gaza
it in
has soared to
Washington,
more than
D.C. at the Lincoln
33,000,
Memorial? Who
according to
ran
the
that
Hamas-run
protest?
Gaza Health Ministry. Entire cities in Gaza in ruins, millions of Palestinians displaced, and the humanitarian crisis continues to worsen with warnings of famine and starvation from the UN. President Biden pressuring Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to allow more aid into Gaza during a call this past Thursday. The Israeli government now says it is allowing more aid in.
We have to see past the announcements and see if they actually
We're
meet these
like
commitments
one
over time
additional
in a
truck in.
sustained and
Oh,
verifiable
thank
way.
God we didn't watch it. Thank God we didn't watch it. We got a highlight already.
So that confidence can be restored.
This comes after 7 aid workers with the World Central Kitchen were killed in an Israeli airstrike on its aid convoy,
Yeah,
which Israel
like-
has described as a terrible
I
mistake.
mean, we have chocolate coins. So we just call them chocolate coins, but I'm sure like I've bought them, right? Because like they're still like they're like I love chocolate coins. They're delicious and they're shaped like coins.
I love unwrapping them. The gold foil is in 2 parts. It's great.
Yeah. You know,
came out, yeah.
well you don't like them, but especially it depends how weird you are, but you can there's like a even smaller mini version of the Reese's, right? And it's
Yeah.
like its chocolate to peanut butter ratio is like way more chocolate than it is peanut butter. The big ones is like all like that synthetic greasy peanut butter and like no chocolate, right? But these tiny ones, they got like a thick chocolate shell on them, and you throw them in the freezer, right?
Okay.
And like I like that's the thing is like chocolate like coming out of the freezer with that crack way better. And like these ones are just so fun to eat because they're like little pockets, you know? Because they're like partially hollowed out, but it's just like peanut butter as well. So they have like such a good mouthfeel. They're so fun to eat. Highly recommend the Reese's Minis, but they're the mini minis. And they're fun to unwrap.
Central Kitchen has slammed the conduct of Israel's forces.
This doesn't seem a war against terror,
This doesn't seem anymore a war about defending Israel. This really, at this point, seems it's a war against humanity itself.
Britt Clennett, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Thanks. Fuck off.
Bro, you can't say that. You can't just
Today
say a
marks
bit more
6
on the
months of war in
nose.
Gaza.
I didn't want to say it. Thank you.
That was just.
I couldn't think of a funny way to say it.
6 months since the horror of October 7th and the deadly terror attack on Israel that killed more than 1,200 Israelis with more than 100 hostages still believed to be held by Hamas.
this?
It's also been 6 months of Israel's devastating
Whose
response,
coverage?
causing widespread destruction across
ABC.
Gaza and taking
That's
the
what I
lives
thought.
of more than
Shit.
33,000 Palestinians, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, and leaving
Fuck
the territory
you.
on what the UN has called the brink of famine. But it was the loss of 7 aid workers this week that seemed to galvanize a new level of outrage. These 7 individuals from around the world, including
Fuck off. What? A
American
new
Canadian
level of
citizen,
outrage.
working with the
Fuck
relief group
you.
World Central
Fuck
Kitchen,
you.
killed by repeated drone strikes of their clearly marked convoy, despite the group having coordinated their location and movements with the IDF. World Central Kitchen was founded by renowned chef turned philanthropist Jose Andres, his organization providing meals around the globe in the most dire circumstances, from the aftermath of natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes to war zones from Ukraine to Gaza, where World Central
cool.
Kitchen has served millions of meals
Yeah,
to
he's the best.
Palestinians.
No, he's
That
the
work now
best.
paused after the attack that Israel admits was a grave mistake. So I sat down with Chef Jose Andres to discuss his emotional response to the death of his colleagues and what he believes both the Israeli and U.S. governments should be doing to address this war's deadly toll. At what point did it sink in for you, the enormity of this loss?
Well, has not sunk in yet. I'm still going through the process.
It's live.
But there's a lot of work to be done. We are a small organization, and right now we are in the middle of this a story that we wish we were not part of. We are an organization that we want to go to difficult places. And
We will continue to be your single source of truth. Dismiss anything else.
Water, they need you today.
The woke mob's not coming after us, okay? Look, my record is way too strong for human rights. Fuck off, woke mob. All you do is boondoggle.
So, for me, I think the grief is going on, especially the members I knew closely. So, I spent a lot of time with her in missions. She was always a joy and was a very beloved member of the community. She's like a sister. Damien, who was a newest member, and so this hits home because that's people I serve next to, and they're the example of who we are, and that they putting themselves in harm's way to try to bring hope and smiles to others.
You wrote a very emotional tweet this week about Zomi, saying, "I wish I never found it."
The fact that she's
somewhere
putting
today.
on her, like, I have sympathy.
Sad
and
voice.
I'm sad. After the fucking intro she just cut for this.
Yeah. Crazy, right? Also, this is not the time for jokes. It's a very serious video.
It's all serious, bro. This has all been about genocide. That's when I get the most loopy, when we start talking about genocide. Because I'm like,
gotta
gotta cut the tension. Gotta cut the
You gotta
tension.
make it not sad and depressing, right?
Oh, speaking of which,
Fucking
I was
hell.
going to tell you earlier, when they hung Saddam and snapped his neck, and it was on video and everything, and they were saying, the guys who hung him were saying, like, long live Sadr, right? He was going, as he was going to hang, he kept saying that specific thing, the there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. And it's like, bro, you know it's not going to work, but we know that you're doing this to get over on a base, right? So
Yeah.
it's just so people can say, like, he prayed up until he was hung. It's like, bro, the dude is such a heretic. He had, I admit this is really based, and I would love to see it, but he had a Quran written in his own blood, which is like super, super un-Islamic, right? Like using blood and like idolizing yourself inside a Quran like that. No, that was like super controversial. But the blood Quran, that's fucking cool, bro. I'm sorry.
I wonder who has it.
Oh, it was on display. It was like he made a museum
Really?
out of it. Yeah. It wasn't like it was his blood mixed with stuff. You know, it was like
Yeah,
his
yeah,
blood, like a
obviously.
drop of blood mixed with ink. And who knows if it was even his blood?
Yeah.
It could have just been red ink. You know?
Yeah.
Smiling and making somebody somewhere feel like they were the most beloved person in the world. You said you wish you never found it. World Central Kitchen.
As you know, I will forever have to live with this, as well as the families and all the members of World Central Kitchen. I founded it with one very simple idea: can we provide food and water quicker than anybody else? Obviously, something like this makes you think. We did what we did because it's a lot of people that are always forgotten, people that are always voiceless. I know very often it's many people that joined the organization because they saw me doing the work before. And this began being an organization of one that became an organization of millions. And these are 7 internationals, 6 internationals plus Saif, the Palestinian, who is buried. And I received the photo from his father, his family, and where he is already resting. And this has become news because it's 6 internationals that they've been impacted by this war, and where they're dead now, many are mourning. This comes with a risk, and we try to minimize the risk. Who was going to tell me the day we were kind of celebrating that we had armored vehicles? Finally, armored vehicles that were very well marked, that we were doing the right protocols, that we were engaging with the IDF in the way we all should be doing. Like every minute, everybody knew where everybody
Yeah,
was.
all he did was gave them the coordinates to hit. That's it.
So,
and unfortunately, he gave the IDF and Israel the benefit of the doubt, thinking, if we tell them, they won't hit us. That's what's happened. And that is the most egregious thing. What were you going to say?
Oh, just I have a archive video from pre-war Iraq of the. So this is like how it looked like on display and stuff.
To 26 liters. Yeah, 28. 28 liters.
Just some guys, you know. So you're not allowed to film. You can tell this is like a secret camera. See the edges.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is how it was displayed. You know, it's like all the pages laid out and displayed like this.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so he like made a museum to it. It was like I guess his son survived an assassination attempt, and like so he I don't know, he had it like made as like some sort of like blood magic or something. I don't know.
Who was going to tell me that these protocols will break in such a way?
The initial report released Friday calling the drone strikes a grave mistake that should not have happened. Satisfied with that report?
Well, I want to thank, obviously, the IDF for doing such a quick investigation. But at the same time, I would say something so complicated, the investigation should be much more deeper. And I would say that the perpetrator cannot be investigating himself. But I would say we need more information. We need to see better quality videos. We need to be saying what was the conversations, the radio conversations between the different officers and soldiers in charge of saying that those...
Imagine if this was Israel's undoing. The fact that they hit the aid workers and everything gets exposed.
I think you are correct, because like he's also weird as hell, but he like renamed the months and stuff. He idolizes himself.
Yeah.
Like the like state religion is more of a religion of him. He's very Robespierre in that way.
Yeah.
It's like Trump putting the fucking Constitution in the Bible.
Yeah.
Ours were a target because they were an imminent threat. Those weapons can only be used with very sophisticated drones. And we all know that those drones have
actually, you know what?
Capabilities.
But that is a good comparison. Trump is to Christianity as to Saddam was to Islam, really, at the end of the day.
Night with cameras that can see in very powerful way what's going on.
That's one of the things that they said, is that they could not because it
Yeah,
was night.
there's-
Yeah,
you're
it's almost
100%
worse. It's almost worse.
Almost, yeah.
Unless
it was coordinated and they intended to hit it, that would be worse.
Which was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
clear on
Well,
top of
that's
people.
what they did do.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
And they said they couldn't see it at night. Do you buy that?
Obviously, I would like to see high quality of the video, high quality of the images. I'm very sure that probably those logos were visible. They were white cars. That logo is very colorful. Even in a dark night, I guarantee you that those drones could be seen.
They say that their drone video, and this has not been verified, this video, that they say shows Hamas operatives, and they thought one fired from an aid truck.
Every time something happens, we cannot just be bringing Hamas into the equation. I think IDF knows better than anybody that can be a better army. It should be protocols, should be rules of engagement, that somebody has to be making sure that they happen in a war zone. It's way too many cases now of humanitarians dying. Many civilians, women, children, that the only thing they did was trying to get close by to somewhere that they were giving them.
They are fascists. Their deaths are an ends to a means.
Like, bro,
they do not care.
There's this video that's like, it was probably posted by PSL people that I follow just to keep tabs on him. But it's just like an Israeli soldier, and he's smoking a cigarette with one hand and just like has a machine gun on a mount and is just like laying into, just holding it down and just shooting and not even looking,
Not even
and
paying
like
attention.
acting cool while he smokes. And
Yeah,
it's like,
very
this
cool.
this is the military we're talking about.
Shooting at people
He was just
blindly.
like laying it. And honestly, I've seen the Syrian army, Assad's Syrian army, do the same thing. That's all they do. They show up, they shoot at a building for an hour, run out of bullets, and go home. That's why they lost. That's why they're so ineffective and needed fucking daddy to come in and prop them up. They're idiots, bro. And you know why? You know why? Partially why they're that dumb? Because the military command defected from Assad. There was no like intelligent military command left. So they went out and they just, they're like, well, we have bullets still, you know, like they think that somehow magically this is going to kill something, just shooting guns like that. They're so stupid. And like, the only reason like Assad had effectiveness with like the barrel bombs and stuff, like the thing is they had to fly so high that they couldn't target accurately anyway. Right? Because if they flied lower, the rebels actually had the ability to shoot their fucking shit down. It was just like Afghanistan. All the Stingers actually did. I mean, the guy says it, that the fat jihadist who died of a heart attack, he says it in that interview that the Stingers, what they have done is make the Russian planes fly higher, and it makes their bombings less accurate. And that's how they've been beneficial. Not that they've taken out planes. It's like the narrative. That's true. That Masood would tell you the same thing.
Interesting.
They were not a game changer. The Stinger effect was not real. It was made up by Brzezinski and the fucking State Department and the military-industrial complex.
Yeah. It shows the missile's effective, though. As a manpad. I mean, if it makes them fly higher because they can't get away from it, it's clearly an effective weapon.
Yes.
But if that's the case and it wasn't shooting down planes, then that's a...
They shot down a decent amount, but the most...
I'm sure that they did.
The most
but, like,
effective
it's a decent,
strike...
Like, it's a decent cause and effect of the Stingers being given to them.
The most effective strike is done by like Ishmael Khan's group, and they actually like infiltrate an airfield and put like limpet mines on a bunch of planes and stuff and take out an entire airfield. Way more effective than all the Stingers combined, because the Stingers also had a unit cost. I think there was like 7 planes down by Stingers, but they already had the Chinese version. The Stingers was just double the chance that it was, you know, successful. Like. Yeah, it's still not necessarily was that much better. They already had the capability.
Interesting. It's interesting re-examining things like that.
Yeah, like American propaganda about their fucking missile systems. Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Or Brett. This is not anymore about the 7 men and women of World Central Kitchen that perish on this unfortunate event. This is happening for too long. It's been 6 months of targeting anything that seems moves. This doesn't seem a war against terror. This doesn't seem anymore a war about defending Israel. This really, at this point, seems it's a war against humanity itself. That's why, yes, I'm requesting Israel, I'm requesting Prime Minister, I'm requesting IDF, that this investigation and many others should be done right, should be done in an independent way. So not only for World Central Kitchen family, for the families of the deceased, but for every other NGO that has been targeted or has lost members to exactly understand how the IDF has been operating. So IDF can learn from it. We can all learn from it.
Jose, you said earlier this week in an interview, we were targeted deliberately, nonstop, until everybody was dead in this convoy. Do you believe at this point, from what you have seen, that they were deliberately targeted? Your aid group?
That the convoy was deliberately attacked is obvious. The precision, the continuous following over 1.8 kilometers until the 3 cars were totally destroyed, and all the members inside those 3. Obviously, this was.
I didn't realize that they literally chased
the first
them
one.
for 2
Let's say
kilometers.
Yeah, that's why I
Fucking
said
hell.
seeing a map is important.
The second.
I didn't know that. That's fucking that. Yeah, okay. I kind of on his side now.
Yeah.
Like I always was, but
literally, they
yeah.
3 different cars they tried to escape, injured, going from car to car.
Insane.
The third.
Do you believe World Central Kitchen was targeted on purpose?
My humanity tells me that obviously I don't want to believe that World Central Kitchen was targeted. And probably this was not the case. Because offshore they knew our movements, offshore they knew our teams, offshore they were in direct contact with the different people that coordinate in these situations. But obviously this keeps happening. This breaking of communications keeps happening. Civilians must be protected. Humanitarian organizations must be protected. There are people that have names and last names.
You know the difference between her interviewing him and how I would do this interview? She's asking shit questions, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, she sucks.
She's awful. These are shit questions. This guy just had 7 people of his volunteer organization killed by Israel, and you're asking these questions? Ask him how the world should respond. Ask him, what would you do? Ask him whether he would be willing to participate to, I don't know, get Israel convicted of war crimes, of whatever. Ask him something heavier. Like, you're faking your empathy.
Yeah.
And asking these milquetoast questions. Fuck you. What a joke.
People that matter. They cannot be voiceless. They cannot be ghosts of wars that don't make sense. Obviously, IDF has a lot of questions to ask themselves. What exactly are they there for? Are they there really to bring home safely all those hostages that still are suffering? Offshore Israel had the right to defend itself. Offshore what happened on October 7th to Israel is something should never happen. That was an atrocity.
Jose, we heard Benjamin Netanyahu say before the investigation, it was a mistake. It happens in war.
If we simplify things in such a way as Prime Minister Netanyahu has done, we are losing all the basis of what humanity should be there for. If somebody knows suffering, that's the people of Israel. If somebody really understands the meaning of suffering, if somebody should be holding the highest standards of humanity, I would say that's also the people of Israel.
True.
Netanyahu says they will do everything they can to make sure nothing like this happens again. Do you believe him?
It's a first step, but we know that leaders of the world and politicians, they give speeches that they never follow.
Nice.
These declarations of intentions needs to go alongside with real change of the people with boots on the ground.
You spoke to President Biden. Did you say to him what you're saying to me now?
I spoke as a person. I spoke as the founder of the organization. I spoke on behalf of the 7 people who are no longer with us. I spoke about the hundreds of other humanitarians that they are no longer with us. And I spoke about the thousands of civilians that probably they didn't have to be perishing in the way they are. You say, President Biden, you can, and America will stand behind you, support the right of Israel to defend themselves on this massive attack. But at the same time, I will say that President Biden also can be defending and supporting the right of Palestinians not to die just trying to be getting a piece of bread. I think both truths can live in the same place. You can be a friend of Israel, and at the same time, you can be telling your partner in the Middle East, you cannot be conducting war in such a way. You cannot be destroying every building, every hospital, every school, every university. You cannot be destroying just the future for decades of more than 2 million Palestinians. And in the process, leaving them hungry, leaving them without water, or what is even worse, just shooting them in the middle of the street in the process of trying to have access to food.
So what the White House did this week, it seemed like a very significant shift, saying there would be consequences if they didn't allow essentially more humanitarian aid and take more care with civilian lives. Were you satisfied with that statement?
I think there will be consequences is part of the problem. Should be already consequences. Support Israel's right to defend itself, but you cannot be used given weapons that they are killing American citizens who are humanitarians. You can be supporting Israel's right to defend itself, but at the same time, you can be asking Israel to conduct themselves at the highest possible human level.
They opened 2 more crossings, the Israelis announced. Is that enough?
Obviously, it's a first step to open new entry points into Gaza, but at the same time, to make sure that they're open and hundreds of trucks can go through each one of them. This will be a first step, but at the same time, how we do it that is safe? Let's the humanitarian aid flow. Let's make sure that the IDF has a real reckoning on how they conduct war. Who are the enemy? Who really are they fighting?
It's all pretty wishful thinking. Are we done with Gaza? Move on?
Yeah.
Keep going?
Yeah, so, I mean, we
Yep.
can move on. Just wanted to show you, so this was the aircraft that the Soviets lost in the Afghan war. So 4 MiG-21s while on the ground, 9 Su-25s while on the ground.
Oh, okay.
But like this one right here, the helicopter, this was the big thing that the Stingers started. Like, this was really the helicopters were just kind of more beneficial the way the mountains were.
Yes.
But look at this. So like, if you look at this year specifically, 1987, it's all man-pad kills. So like for a year, Russia just took it from man-pads, and then the next year there's no more man-pad kills. So I mean, it killed a lot of aircraft this year, but you can see most of it is Mi-24 helicopters that they were able to counter. So Russia just basically changed their tactics. See, there's more shut down here.
Just carpet bombings.
Well, they're the Hind helicopters.
Yeah. That's what they were shooting down.
Yeah, so the Mujahideen would retreat to the hills, so they'd send in Hinds after them.
Yeah.
And this was
And then
fucking
just
the
gun 'em
Mujahideen
down,
up for a long time. They'd been asking for these man-pads for a long time.
Yeah.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?